break and come back, and I have a few things that I want to show you through the library page that we'll do at the beginning, as well as just have a small chat about what's on the agenda for next week in terms of a midterm review. And then we are going to have some time to break into your groups so that you guys can get conversations starting about what cultures you might want to be working on, subtopics that you're thinking about, just sort of have some time to begin to get the conversation flowing about your projects, because it will definitely kind of creep up in the next couple of weeks. Your annotated bibliography is due, so you're going to want to be thinking about those subtopics fairly soon so that you can start getting some sources together for that assignment if you haven't started thinking about that already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just a couple different avenues via the library page to get to the database. So I'll show you one now, and then when I'm showing you a couple other things when we come back from break, I'll show you the second sort of route that there's a couple different ways really that you can find these on the library, but just so that you're accessing it. In terms of Googling the HRAF database, if you're at home, you can do that, but your access is provided through U of I. So unless you're signing in that NetLink ID, either through a library portal or coming back to it and then being asked to sign in your NetLink ID, your access is going to be restricted. So if you're not on campus, just finding it through Google isn't going to work as efficiently unless you go through the U of I actual web page. So that's kind of just why I want to show you where it is on here. So just for the first round, we're going to go under Search and Find under your databases. So there's a couple things here that may be useful to you. You guys probably recognize JSTOR. A lot of material for social science stuff shows up on there. Here we have Google Scholar. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with that one. Under databases by subject, we're going to click on that. So this can be useful for any subject that you're in. You're getting databases that have been organized kind of thematically based on disciplines. So we're going to go into anthropology, and you can see there's a whole whack of stuff listed under here that could be useful for you for either this class, other classes, but we're going to go into the HRAF World Cultures here and connect on that one, and so you should have this page sort of up in front of you in terms of the start of the tutorial. Everyone's with me so far?
It won't let me click on it.
Won't let you click on?
No, it's just, I click it and it just goes like that.
Click on this part here.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, you have to click right on the word connect. For whatever reason, it's not, the whole bar is not activated there. All right, so I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to go here. All right, everyone's ready? Yeah? Just think, you have a long weekend. I'm going to write by myself all weekend, so you guys should be really excited if you're going to be fed by someone's family or friends. All right, Chris, we're ready for you.
Yeah, hi. Welcome to HRAF World Cultures. I'm going to walk you through our ethnographic database, which is now called HRAF World Cultures. It used to be called HRAF Collection of Ethnography. And what I will do is talk about the history of HRAF and how it all is put together as I'm walking you through it, because I think it will make more sense to show you in action the structure. And I will then also tell you a little bit about our my colleagues and I. I have a background in anthropology, a master's degree from the University of Wyoming, especially archaeology. And I'm excited to show you the unique aspects of our ethnographic database. So in order to walk you through, I'm going to actually turn off my webcam because I want you to look at the screen. You should see our brown kind of database in brownish color. And chances are when you come in to it, you start out with what's most obvious. This big box, which probably resembles this one, Google, equally big. Unfortunately, our database works I want to almost say opposite from Google. So whatever you have been learned and used to, you kind of have to rethink. So let's get started. And let's say we're interested in searching for food practices in Latin America. And since I already did a little webinar today earlier, I'm going to reuse that topic. And this is perfectly fine if you were to research any other database or search engine. So let's see, submit and see what happens. And it's looking and looking. And while we're waiting, let me explain to you the two great features that we have in HRAF is this framework of cultures and subjects. And what you see going on right now is our organization to channel and translate words or geographic areas into what we have available. So here you already see part of our framework, which specializes in cross-cultural research. And so before you even get to the final text destination, you have to go through doors, geographic doors. So you have to go through, in this case, not the Latin America door, but through the South American door. And it's looking and looking. So what's going on here now, it's trying to map those words against what we have in this thesaurus, cultures and subjects. And it comes up with 56 paragraphs in 38 documents in 24 cultures. Well, this doesn't really mean a whole lot because you don't really know how many total cultures there are in South America that we have. How could you? So opening up, you will see always the same window, which is a structure based on subregion, for example, Amazon or Naco, and then culture names. So here, the first special aspect comes in, that our culture collections, as we call them, that are based on text-based documents, are all grouped by culture names rather than nations or countries. And these are displayed here. We also go through and define the cultures by their subsistence types, because for anthropologists, this is oftentimes a great aid to know, okay, I'm looking for, let's say, the Mapuche who are into intensive agriculture. Here I see the number of paragraphs, so this gives me an aspect of how much there is, and I click on it, and I see some results, and this is where the other special aspect comes in, that we display the data by fragments. And the information searched is foremost based on a culture name, so I highlight that up here, and then it is based on the topic that is somewhere in a few paragraphs or sentences within the text. So here I only have two options. I see a little snippet of text right here, just a few lines with the word displayed, which is always useful. And if I click on the link, a paragraph opens up. And if I want to see the results in the context of the full context as we have it, you will only ever just see one page. Well, this is quite different, but this is, you know, what we specialize in. So think about our database as something that enables you to search for culture, which is listed right here. So you have the culture name, and it shows you the results, but always just as at a paragraph or page level. Now, remember the basic search, food practices in Latin America? Well, the reason why it has such a hard time finding anything is because the entire search unit are only these few words here. So imagining looking for almost nearly 1 million pages and all the information might be there, but because you're looking within one paragraph at a time, it's not finding it. So now what I'm going to do is switch over here and show you how the database is constructed. Because hopefully, and this is my goal, that I will make sense in explaining to you the logic behind it. And once you understand the logic, I think it will be clear as to what to expect when you use the databases or database. Browse cultures is what dates back to our original structure. Back in the 1930s, an anthropology professor, actually cultural anthropologist at Yale, George Peter Murdoch, came up with a classification system of culture names. And what I just found out a few days ago, he would be at the Yale Sterling Library from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. in the morning, and he would sit there and he would take culture names and their various spellings and assign them to one particular major culture name or HRAF specific culture name. And as we were told, he would do that so routinely that he would have rings under his eyes from being at the library all night long. So he was very into this classification system. It was really his passion. And the reason why he wanted to do that is because when you have culture names that have different nicknames but really point to one and only culture name, it's really nice to have a little bit of order in it. And his passion went beyond just doing that. He also wanted to give it some structure in terms of geography. So this is what grew out of it. It's based on what's called the Outline of World Cultures. In previous years, we had all this information in microfiche, and now it's online and made easy for you to kind of at the fingertips to be browsing around for cultures across countries. So for example, here you see the culture groups we have for Afghanistan. And pay attention because we do not concentrate on countries per se. We concentrate on indigenous people and tribal cultures and ethnic groups within those areas. And this is another very important aspect. Well, having said that, I'm contradicting myself because here I see Albania was Albanians. But going back to Algeria, well, this is going back to having an ethnic group. So the main emphasis is on indigenous people, primarily pre-industrial cultures. That means people that do not use electricity necessarily or have running water, but still have, I wouldn't even say basic tools, but stone tools possibly. And once we select the culture, we have 3 parts to it. There is a culture summary, there is a culture collection description, and collection documents. The culture summary I kind of really like because it's a overview which is not too long with standard headers like identification and location, linguistic affiliation, and oftentimes I go here to explore when I have an interest in a culture as to what I want to even research, because this information in here sometimes gives me good insights. For example, let's see, where's the one? Marriage, man, not necessarily. Conflict, beliefs, arts. It sometimes gives me an idea as to whether I want to search for a thing or an action. Here, you start seeing a little bit of the other part of the grade index classification, which is the subject indexing. It's called the OCM, or Outline of Culture Materials, that developed at the same time as the culture indexing system, starting in the 1930s. Actually, this goes back to the I want to say 60s or 80s, I'm not sure. It was first founded by a sociologist at Yale, Wilhelm Graham Sumner, and we have the files of his handwritten tags and excerpts from journal and magazine and books IDing the text by topics. And it's pretty historical to look down in our library and see the handwritten, the beautiful handwriting he uses. But this will give you a glimpse of the thesaurus. So there is a subject title, then there is a subject ID. Usually it's 3 or 4 digit long. There's always a description. There's always a broader term, and then their use force. Like, well, if you look this up, you will be pointed to this. So when you did your basic search, it was actually trying to look in here feverishly, looking of like practices and food and more, where's the practices? Anyway, see alsos are kind of like synonyms. It's a little bit like going to Amazon.com and choosing a book, and then all of a sudden, well, since you like this, wouldn't you like that? That's the same thing. Now, the last part, which I really like, is this menu. So I have shown you the the culture name index, and then the by country. Let me go back up again just to give you a place. And here, oh, before we leave, I forget. The other part is the collection documents. And this is where you find an entire collection that we have for a culture name. So this is a culture name that we include. And then the collection is actually all the stuff that you see here. This is important to explore because if you are focusing, let's say, on a particular culture, you want to kind of get an idea of what time period is covered, right? Well, maybe. So here, under publication dates, you can do an sorting, and you will see that this collection only goes up to 2002. So if your interest is anything on the Pashtun past 2010, you may have to look for a newer resource or electronic book or something on the Pashtun. So see that then maybe as a way to provide you more ethno-historical information. And that you can only do by coming in here and first taking a look. You will see various titles, and these titles will always be different for each and every culture we have included. The number of documents will also be always different. This one has 22. Another one may only have, let's say here, 1. When you see 1 document under the collection documents, that usually means that only a culture summary is available. So if you decide to do a research on a particular culture name, well, it is important to get a sense of just how many books or journal articles we have available on them. So this is the place to go. And then another place to go is clicking on collection descriptions. Here you will see a brief culture description, and this is just about that particular culture. And then also tags like countries, Afghanistan, etc. And here you will see a glimpse of just how many documents are included and the page count. And this is important because if you come up with a lot of results, you kind of want to know how do they relate to in the total number of all the documents. Now, the last tab, which is my favorite, and the reason why this is my favorite is because it reflects the original structure that we base our culture collection on. So think in HRAF in terms of a collection of culture collections organized by major regions. In this case, we have 8 of the world. And before you can get to a culture name, remember our search, and you had to go through South America first. This is a similar layout. You have to do that in Browse as well. So here I see, for example, all my cultures for South America, Amazon, and Orinoco. And again, mostly indigenous people and names of indigenous people. And if you click on the collection, I think you are already familiar with the Yanomamo. You see here the documents. So here there are 12. So if you wanted to see right away how many number of pages, I see that it is over 1,000. And those over 1,000 pages are all bundled in here. Now, how does a document make its way into the HRAF database? Well, it has to be culture specific. What does that mean? If there was a document that is titled The Fierce People of Latin America, but without any particular reference to the Yanomamo or the Warao or Tucano or Ticuna, we would not include them because we would not know in which culture bundle we can put it in. And this is another very important aspect. So let's say if there is a book that we come across that has 5 huge chapters. One is on the Yanomamo, one is on the Warao, one is on the Tucana, and so forth. We then would chop them up, which is pretty cruel, but well, that's just what we do. And we would put them in those collections that have that name associated. So first and foremost, the concentration is on a culture, and then only then is it on a topic, which is somewhere in the text. Now clicking on a title, this will take us to the entry page. So we call this the publication information page, and this is where our or my colleagues come in and they look at each and every document. And they look at the table of contents and they read. So here actually there's some bugs because there's a little space in between. But anyhow, they read. They read paragraph by paragraph. So this is a good example of a tiny little paragraph. And this tiny little paragraph, how small it is, it still gets a tag that reflects the major contents of what's going on within that paragraph. So if this was all in some native language, and this is in English or translated into French, I would still know what this is about, because this becomes your summary expressed by a HRAF specific language. So see it as kind of a almost translation. And as the topics change within the paragraphs, like here, it went from lumbering to all of a sudden collecting, hunting, and diet. So topics about some kind of a cultural or social aspect can be snippets or just words, and various. And they change as the contents change in small environments. Now, if you were to come across this by itself, you would be kind of stumped as to the time reference and the place reference. So what we have put together, and we're sticklers for provenience, is a place and a field date or date coverage. Unfortunately, here you're kind of out of luck because it says not specified, but this will help you because you will see that this is about South America, specifically the Yanomami, and the field date gives you a pointer as to, well, if the field date was 1964 to 68, then whatever is going on in here, by logic, couldn't go on in 2010 or 15 or 16. Well, that wouldn't make sense either. Now, before we move on, and I will show you how this works, I want to just quickly show you how the sample is. So I'm going to go back here. Okay. Well, we have a problem. We're a nonprofit, a member institution at Yale University, and although we are at Yale, we're self-funded, and we only have so many people that can do the work, 12 actually. So we have to restrict. We would like to include everything, all the cultures, but we cannot. So here we have to make a decision as to what to include and what not to include. Europe is a good example, and as you see, you might be really greatly disappointed. I know I am, because coming from Bavaria in southern Germany, I see that my tribe is nowhere to be seen here. Well, that's because the concentration is on cultures, and because those who did the recording and observations, I hate to say it, probably came mostly from Europe, and the least what they wanted to do is observe their own culture. So they would go to, whoa, let's go to North America and explore the, the Blackfoot, or let's go to South America and like Humboldt, Alexander from Humboldt, studying the Yanomami, or at least going to Venezuela and finding the electric eel and what electricity does in the 1800, I guess. So keep that in mind, that it's a representative sample. So far we have 307 cultures included, and out of the 2,000, it is a small sample, but the emphasis is on the ability to compare and contrast cultures. At least that's HRAF's mission. But for those who are not interested in it, well, they don't have to compare. Now, I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to actually, not to get lost here, I'm going to go to advanced search. Now, with the same, and let me just switch back because I want to show you how this comparison goes on. So I'm going to put in food practices in, wait, actually, let me just do that here. Okay, so here we are, food practices in Latin America. And I'm going to go in here and do food practices in Latin America with the HRAF tools. So I've switched over to advanced search. I click on cultures, click on South America to select all my cultures from Latin America. So I do have to translate, add them to my Amazon.shopping cart, and do the same for food. This is kind of easy because food pops up right away. So I can just drill down and just add my topic. It is always helpful to read the descriptor because in this search, you are the one who is in control. So whatever you choose will get searched. There is no interpretation on the part of HRAF other than that we had people reading meticulously the text and saying, oh, this is about diet, that's for sure. So here you will see not a single keyword, and if you do the search, it comes up with quite a bit of results. 2,431 paragraphs in 267 documents, 39 cultures. All the results are here. And in comparison to this search, it will be different because look at this. I came for South America, I came up with 56 paragraphs in 38 documents and 24 cultures. So there's quite a difference between the two. Now going back here, if I click on the Yanomama, I will be able to search the same documents, and let me go here to do the comparison because I think it's always good to see how it compares. So this is the total collection, 12 documents altogether and what, 1,100 something pages. So this is the total. And this is 8 documents out of 12 documents in 59 paragraphs. But the search is pretty straightforward. You have told it, or well, I have told it, to only search for paragraphs with some information on diet, and that's what it did. And the beauty of it is that it pulls up pieces of text where the word diet or food is not shown, but it's all about diet and food. Like here, you see all mammals were eaten, except for the felines. They were lucky. Snakes were also eaten. Well, I wish the snakes would have been eaten more. But anyway, so here are the snippet of text. Always little, not much, not like page after page on food, but very revealing as to the diet and food, just really chopped up in little pieces of text. Now you can browse around, and what I always like to do is instead of going 10 by 10 by 10, I like to always increase up to the highest number just because it's faster. So what I see here now is a display of all the results, but not so many ranges here. And what I can also do is to sort by time coverage. So over here, I see all my number of documents, those 8, and this will give me an insight into a little bit of the time frame. Now, remember, we had looked at Shagmon's Yanomamo, the Fierce People. 23 results. In my previous search, basic search, Yanomamo didn't even come up because it just couldn't match those specific keywords in this tiny little search unit. But here, because I'm using the OCM subject for diet, it's coming up, and here it is. So at this point, I can start collecting. So if I see a lot of results, I probably would prefer the page, and I would click on the ones that I want to use. And let's see, where's the next one? So you do have to change the radial dial up here. And clicking on next will propel you from page 7 to page 8. And let's see, anything else here? No. Next. So the next one was on page 29. Whoa, that's quite a jump, huh? And one more. And here is a nice trick, because if you look at the page list, you get to see where all the rest of the results are. So this tells me there's kind of a chunk of information starting at page 29 through 33 at least. Yeah. Now, in order to collect the data, you can do a cite. You can do a permalink. But if you look at the site, it only gives you the author information, and this only gives you the link. But if you do print or email, it doesn't matter which, another page pops open, and this will give you the paragraph in addition to the metadata that we had seen in the publication info page. So there is a culture name that we can assign to it. What are the major subjects that are going on? Abstract, even field date, all the stuff from here. That's pretty nifty. Now going back, we're back on our page. Let's do another search. Now, just as I told you that using keywords is not the best thing in HRAF in an advanced search, I have to revise that statement. Because if you are looking for a very specific aspect of diet, like eating insects, you can put that in to your search to refine your area with just a particular keyword. Let's do that. This greatly reduces my results, of course, by logic, because, you know, whenever you put something in, and also refines of how much you're getting out. So here I see 54 paragraphs in 33 documents, 18 cultures. Now, if you have energy and like to make your search more exciting, well, you can add a little bit and tweak it into something really, really powerful. But in order to do that, you have to use critical thinking. So let's open up a Word document, because what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to think about the different expression for insects. Well, insect is the obvious, right? And because there can be one or a few insects, I put in an asterisk. This is a truncation method. And then I come up with another word, maybe locust. Again, truncation. Grasshopper. So however creative my thinking is, that I will put in my keywords. Sometimes I have to be careful, because if I use a word that could have many different meanings, like for example, ant, little ants, I have to be maybe leaving in the S or the T, because otherwise I might get antler or antsy, who knows. But with this in mind, I will copy that, because if I walk away from my search and I come back a little later, I will lose that. And I hate to have to retype it and rethink it. So I'm going to use my Word document kind of as my worksheet. So what's going on here? I have one insect or locust or grasshopper expressed by Boolean operators. Powerful and old, but very powerful, because what we're actually doing is free text searching. So it's very limited in what it's finding, because unlike Google, it doesn't say, did you mean this or that? It's all your work. And then when we add a few more topics, and now I'm going to switch over to my all-time favorite, the OCM identifier, because this is giving me the range of all subject possibilities all at once. So here, what I like is it gives me a sequence of numbers, and it lets me choose and browse to add a few. And it also kind of gives me the whole spectrum of things. Like if I go through here, I see a logical sequence between events. I mean, logical in terms of HRAF logic. So we group things together, like war has to do with sickness, and then when you fight and you're sick, you die, and then you go to heaven, religious beliefs, and so forth. Similar to reproduction, there is a sequence too. So this is all reflected in here. So this is worthwhile to explore, that's for sure. And what you can do is you can browse and even find new stuff, like, oh, maybe food taboo. This looks exciting, huh? So let's add that. Well, there's a problem, because when you have similar subject, but then you have one that is totally different, what you want to do is just add another layer. And this is actually a little bit into complex searching, but once you get the hang of it, I think it's a lot of fun, but I might be only the one who likes that. And that's because I wasn't so good in logic when I took that subject or class at the University of Wyoming. So, but here, look at the logic. We're looking for any paragraphs, text units, either tagged with food preparation or diet or eating, and the word locust or grasshopper or X, Y, and Z has to be there. And then something about taboo also has to be present. And if we want to make it really exciting, we can type in the word taboo and avoid. And because this is so now specific, chances are that the results will be tiny, not a whole lot. Like, for example, well, Yanomama even popped up. And this may also not always, ooh, hold on, there's something about taboo, something about a bear and bear. Aha, An ant bear may not be eaten by members of the tribe. Oh, so the rationale that's going on here is I have looked for diet, which is appearing here. There are keywords, and there is my own created constellation of results. Now going back, I could turn this into a cross-cultural search. So the same thing, and I don't know why this is already going away. So let's make it reappear. So now, without any culture selected, I'm actually going to use the cross-cultural aspect of HRAF, the full looking in the 8 major regions of HRAF, and it's looking over the nearly 1 million pages that have been read by HRAF, staff, analysts, anthropologists, and it's tagging and looking for all the cultures that possibly have that constellation of taboo and food and insects under one little paragraph. Here you see South America popping up again. But if you wanted to switch over to like Africa, you could do so. And you could look and see, and not always is the information, of course, relevant. So you do have to use your judgment. And that's something as a scientist, well, you can learn with our database and really sharpen. So it's kind of a way to do Sudoku only, with an online resource. Now, to summarize, the database consists of a total of, I want to say it's nearly 800,000 pages of indexed bundled culture collections. And the major premise is that it is based on cultures and subjects. And what I forgot, and I want to show you because I think you might find that actually very important. Let's see here. Let me go back. I'm kind of flip-flopping around. I'm sorry for that. Okay, I'm going to go here. So if I do a search, and I want to show you how I collect my data, I go in, and I don't know what I'm getting now, but that's okay because I'm just showing you here. So let's say I had a few paragraphs here. What I usually do is open this up, copy that, and put it under a Word document. And I click the plain text because that kind of displays it nicely. And I first get all my data. And then after I'm done, I go back in and I look for the author information. Because if you do that and you go back into Browse Documents and you look for the last name of an author, and the only thing, of course, you have to remember here, and this is the hard part, well, I mean, at least for me, this is the headhunters of the Western Amazons. Then you click on it, and when you do, this gets you to the publication information. You could have also gotten it by going to view page and publication information as well. So either way, different ways to get to the information, but it's all here, and then I would just copy the whole thing. So you have it on record. and it will tell you everything from the date coverage and the place coverage and so forth. Now, let me show you who it is behind who puts it all together. So I'm going to flip over to, or toggle over to our home page. So we are Human Relations Area Files, as I said, a nonprofit at Yale. This is the building where I'm talking from. I'm kind of in the back. And those are my colleagues and the people that help make it all happen. So here's Tef. He's from Ethiopia, PhD in anthropology. He is an analyst. Trish is the person who collects all the various documents, so she goes to the Yale Library. Fran, also an anthropologist, University of Kent in England. She is actually in charge of our homepage here. Sarah is an archaeologist. She does the indexing of the archaeological databases. Doug, I feel very sorry for him because he has to put all the structure together and make sure that whatever you see so pleasantly actually works. And I see him oftentimes at 11, 12 midnight being here. Well, that's me. I came, by the way, to Yale as a supporting spouse. My now ex-husband, I have to say, started his PhD in archaeology at Yale. Leon, also archaeologist at Yale. Carol, she is a cultural anthropologist. She's the president and our boss. She's Raquel is a volunteer, also anthropologist. So there are jobs out there for anthropologists. This is a good example. This is Matt. He came in as a anthropology intern because each year we give out internships and we couldn't let him go. So he's still with us. Ian, another analyst, and those are our current interns, Talisa and Christina, and we just have 2 more people on board. So small, but a nice HRAF family, as I call it. Resources. Well, in getting familiar with the HRAF databases and subjects, I often point people to our products page and HRAF World Cultures because there are 2 links, Cultures Covered, that give you an insight of the various culture names. And I kind of like this one right here, the topics. And the reason why I like the topics page is because you can just copy that URL and send it to someone. And this is a very straightforward linear line with all the topics we currently have covered, all the 700 plus categories ranging from history to language, to communication, to food, to food processing. Remember, we were in here. So if I find subjects here, what I usually do is I take down the word, not the words, the numbers, because it's so much faster to write 252. And then I go in here and I go straight to the identifier because that cuts time in looking for the numbers otherwise or the topics. But whatever way you want to do it, it's really up to your comfort level of what feels good to you. Now, the last thing is...
Chris?
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to have to interrupt just because we're at the 50-minute mark here.
Okay.
And I need to give the students a break. And so there's a couple last things that I'll be able to show them on the main page that you're on here. But we may have to part for now.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. So the other thing is the reference page with the downloads, which I think you have already provided your students with the PDF file, right?
Yes, yes, and I'm going to show that to them again.
Yeah, good. And this is a cool link too. So thank you for coming to my webinar and letting me show you the various aspects of HRAF, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you a good weekend. I'm going up to Vermont, so yeah.
Lucky you.
I know.
Lucky you.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.